Robin Hood, a story about the struggle between the peasants of England and a rich nobility who were exploiting them. The earliest legend of Robin Hood places him in the late 1300s, just years after the Black Death plague had swept across England. It killed around half of the population and left the rest in utter ruin and devastation. Their families were destroyed, their lives were in pieces, and the world they once knew was forever changed. Prior to this plague, many of the people had been living the same way for generations, feeding their families by working as laborers for the aristocracy. Well, after half of the population died to the Black Death, there weren't nearly enough workers to keep the food supply up. And at the same time, the nobles were demanding the same amount of work and taxes while refusing to increase any of the wages. In addition to this, they also outlawed any form of hunting. The result? Food and services became extremely expensive and unaffordable. The people began to starve while the aristocracy looked on from a distance, living as they always had. Thus enters the legend of Robin Hood, the man who steals from the evil rich to help the hurting poor. Traditionally, the narrative follows that the Sheriff of Nottingham would tax people and throw those who could not pay into prison. He really represents the embodiment and evil of the aristocracy, the heartless, soulless, and self-focused natures of these nobles who are unwilling to help those in need. Even in Disney's rendition of Robin Hood, the sheriff is a sociopath who feels nothing for the people he is imprisoning and killing. He is merely an extension of the king's will. So clearly, Robin Hood is a very understandable folk hero. His legend is the fictional embodiment of the uprising and revolution that was already within the minds of an oppressed people. He was their identity, especially when they began to realize that the ruling class was exploiting them for the purpose of keeping the same lifestyle. Historically speaking, even though Robin Hood was not actually a real person, it is thought that his story is a combination of different people from the past, usually idolized outlaws of the same time period, who did in fact live in the woods and steal from the rich nobility. Just 4 years after the earliest written record of Robin Hood, the peasants of England had a revolution against the English government. This is known as the Peasants' Revolt. Robin Hood's legend is really the forerunner to this revolt. We can see this because he was a popular folk tale among the people in the years prior to the revolution, showing that the story of Robin Hood is actually a commentary of the oppressed English people and a call for revolution against their oppressive government.